All right, everybody, welcome back to the Overwatch Collective podcast with Roger, all the way from Victoria, Australia, season 9, episode 11. We've been planning this one ever since I came on your podcast, which was episode 125 last year.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes, it's been a while. So, how are you? Thank you for coming on.
No, it's the pleasure is mine. Thank you so much. Now, I will try and slow down and speak so people can understand me, because this Aussie accent can absolutely destroy a few Americans. They go, say what? Say what? But my name's Roger Sutherland, and I am a 40-year veteran in the frontline policing here in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia, down the very bottom of Australia. I did a whole 40 years and retired at 60. And of that time, I did a bit of everything. I did a bit of highway patrol. I did a little bit of CIU, detective. I was a detective for 2 years, and then I went to the dog squad, and I was at the dog squad where I was a dog handler for 17 years as well. And I finished up my career for the last 12 years in communications as a communications supervisor. Like your 911, it's our 000 here. That's the emergency number. Interesting stat, if you dial 911 here, it comes through to 000 as well.
Oh, okay. All right. So you get two.
If I dial 000 in the US, I bet it doesn't go to 911.
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Yeah. It's just an interesting stat, but that's what I did. That's where I met my partner too, Greg. Melissa, she is a police radio dispatcher and has been for a period of about 14 years as well. So she's working in police dispatch. I have a daughter who is 30 years of age, and she is a detective in the police as well and works at child sex offences. And her husband, son-in-law, is also in the police, and he's a detective. I have a son who is a fire dispatcher and a police call taker as well. So we are actually the 000 family here. There's no doubt about it. It ran in the blood. It's a fantastic thing for me, very proud moment for me as a father to have children who followed in my footsteps into the emergency services as well. And I was able to lead by example. And now that I've retired, I retired in August of last year to focus on the business, which we will talk about today. But I've left the legacy of all of them now working and carrying the baton for me as well in that. So I had a fantastic... I'm going to say I had a fantastic 37 out of my 40 years. The last 3 were extremely difficult with PTSD, anxiety and depression I was diagnosed with, but we've come well and truly out of that now. I can assure you it's been a great recovery from that, but I've worked very hard on that with my own strategies.
Yeah, and I'm glad to hear that. And same kind of thing as you, Roger, with my family. You know, like my dad, a police officer for over 40 years, uncle, police officer, grandfather, police officer, great grandfather, and then my brother becomes a firefighter. You know, so which is great, right? We're all jealous of him as a firefighter.
Of course, I was just going to say, and exactly. He's the one that's made the right decision, hasn't he? He gets to sleep. We love the water fairies, don't we?
We do indeed, yeah. And so definitely the same kind of thing as you. Like the whole family is of service and like being in the uniform and everything. And congratulations, grandfather. You have a bunch of little babies around, everything. 3. I see it. I love it. The smile on your face. It makes me so happy.
Yeah, I have 3. My daughter has had, my son has had a daughter who's now 5. That's Luna. I also have Lila. My daughter had Lila about 5 months ago. So I've got a 5-month-old granddaughter. And then we had Romy, who is my son's second daughter. They're all little princesses, and I'm just the king of my princesses at home now. And it's honestly, Greg, having your own children is one thing, but when they grow up and they provide you with grandchildren, it's next level. It is next level. It's true. Like you remember the grandparents, you'd go to the grandparents, have fun, they would spoil you, and then you would come home. I get to do that now, and it's just amazing, and I love it.
Yeah, and I could tell by seeing your social media and just the big smile that you have on your face. It's so good to see, and I love it. It makes my heart happy seeing that.
Thank you. It's awesome.
So before we get into a healthy shift, I want to give you a breakdown of that. I just want to update you on our statistics as well. So as of now, we're
Fantastic.
almost at $306,000 spent in therapy costs. We're almost at 3,000 therapy sessions, either fully covered or financially assisted. And then 278 people have gone through the Overwatch Collective to get connected to our therapists. So the numbers are amazing. It's so rewarding. And I appreciate your support all the way from Australia.
Congratulations, Greg. I think for people who are listening from my side of this, the Overwatch Collective, I've had Greg on the podcast before. And I think the work that they do over there as a not-for-profit to provide support to military first responders, nurses, dispatchers, everybody's involved that are able to seek and get support outside of their own organisations. And I think this is critical. Because a lot of people don't trust their own organisations. And I think what you provide now, and it's the same, we have an organisation here too, Greg, called Aussie Frontline, and they do what you do as well. And there's Dr. Dan Pronk and another guy, Marley, who runs this as well. They do the same. They sell merch, and $10 from every T-shirt or hoodie goes towards getting the therapy for people outside of the organisation, and they run a lot of events too. It's a real credit to you guys. We hear people complaining about how hard the job is in everything, military, nursing, dispatch, police. But here's you and Dan and Marley and your team that are all working full-time and also running this not-for-profit on the side as well. And I think it's a real credit, which is why I love to get on and promote it as much as I can to get as much support for it, because you guys deserve it.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you saying that. And I'm looking forward to getting connected to Aussie Frontline and doing a podcast
Absolutely.
with them and everything. And I know we have that on the schedule to happen here shortly, hopefully. But let's see. Yeah, and we'll touch on that later with the burnout and the clashing with the department and all that. I look forward to talking about that in a little bit. But I want to start off, obviously, a healthy shift. Please break that down. When did you start it? What's the mission behind it? What can you do for our community? And just take it away.
Fantastic. Thank you, Greg. A Healthy Shift was born in about 2019. I was working and I was looking at my colleagues and I was thinking, everyone's getting overweight. They're all so unwell. It's got to be nutrition. There's got to be a massive problem here. So what I did at the ripe old age of 55 was I returned to study, or I was researching schools or nutrition unis to go to and what course to do. And the director of Mac Nutrition Uni was on tour, and I met him and I said to him, would your school be any good for helping shift workers? I really want to help shift workers moving forward. And it was going to be my transition into retirement, but I really wanted to help shift workers. And he said, I've got great advice for shift workers that will help them. And I said, yeah, good. What's that? And he said, don't do it. And I thought, what do you mean don't do it? And he goes, well, don't do shift work. And I said, that's all well and good for you to say, but he was from the UK. And I said, who do you think flew the plane, served you your drinks, packed your bags onto the plane? Who do you think it is that brings the room service to your room after hours? Who do you think it is that actually runs the hotel after hours, drives your Uber, drives your taxis? When you order that Amazon order and it comes overnight, because let's face it, we order Amazon. If we don't want it that day, we want it the next day. Who do you think's doing all of that? And he just said, yeah, I understand that, but it doesn't make shift work healthy. And I said, no, but how can we make it more healthy? Because if we look at the research around shift work today, Greg, it's diabolical, right? It is. It's diabolical for our health. This light exposure at night, disrupting our circadian rhythm, it is impacting on us in more ways. And the more we learn, the worse it is. So I said to him, we need to learn to help these shift workers. We've got to optimize it for them. Anyway, he messaged me a few days later and said to me, I've been really thinking heavily about what you said, and I would like to offer you a position in the uni to go and do the school. I was beside myself to study this nutrition. It was the dream course for me. It's the gold standard nutrition course in the world. It is evidence-based, so it is only not bro science. It's not what we think, what we might. It taught me how to read research, break research down. And when I started looking at the research around shift work, I was able to look at it through a different lens that this is really bad, but we can optimize it, because I can guarantee, Greg, that when you started in your jobs, whether it was military, whether it was in the police, you were never taught how to go about optimizing your life around shift work, ever. No one is. No one's ever taught how to go about it.
Mm-mm.
So then what I did was, as I was reading research, I was thinking to myself, yeah, this doesn't really quite fit our shift working environment. Like, it's all well and good for professors and researchers to look at this. It doesn't really fit. So what I was able to do is I've been able to combine my 40 years, or what was 35 years at the time, of lived experience. What does the research tell us? How would that actually work in a real shift working environment? So that's what I do now. So what I do is I look at the research and what it's telling us, and then I come up with strategies on how that can work for us in our shift working environments based on my own lived experience, because I've lived it. I've felt it. I know what it's like. I know what those quick changeover shifts are like. I know what it's like to feel brain fog, fatigued, can't be bothered exercising, trying to catch up on sleep. I know all about all of those things and what it's like, but I've been able to combine it. And I've put a program together now, and I started a healthy shift. And over the last 6 years, I've coached hundreds and hundreds of shift workers, more so females, because females struggle more with shift work than males do. But we can talk about that later. But I have changed people's lives in their shift working lives with simple little strategies that people can put in place. Now, generally, I went and studied nutrition thinking that it was nutrition, because if people are getting overweight, it's obviously nutrition, isn't it? That's what I was thinking. But what I didn't realize was how much sits over the top of nutrition that impacts on our nutrition. There's so much. And we were in a position where our shift workers, like, you go to work every day, Greg, and you put a uniform on, and that reminds you of exactly where you are at, right, in your weight. You know, if the uniform gets a bit tight, no one swapped it for a smaller one. It means you're getting bigger, so you've got to do something about it.
Yep.
Even though someone keeps swapping my uniforms in my cupboard, I don't know who it is, but someone keeps putting smaller ones in there. Anyway, so what I did was I then realised that body image is a massive issue, because we start to suffer with body image and how to do that. So I went off and studied body image and did courses in that, and disordered eating. And, you know, because people think, oh, I've got a diet, I need to count macros, and I need to be in a calorie deficit, and I need to achieve that. Then I realised that that's so disordered, and I studied that as well, because that causes problems. And women's health. I read and read and read on women's health and look at the research around women's health, because of the impacts that has on our female shift working community as well. When you combine and fix all of those problems over the top of nutrition, it's amazing how nutrition just takes care of itself in the background. It really does make a big difference. So that's where Healthy Shift was born. This is where I am now. But what I am now doing, Greg, is I've hit upon a whole new business model. What I do is I deliver shift work health and wellbeing seminars into organisations, and I'm open to doing it in the US via webinar, unless someone wants to pay for me to come over and do it live, which I would be happy to do. But what I'm doing is I'm delivering health and wellbeing seminars to provide basics, and I call it the shift work experience. And if people want to go to my website, ahealthyshift.com, have a look at the seminar experience, which is up the top. And you can download my free e-brochure as to what I do, how I go about it. The new business model that I'm heading into is to champion people in the workplace as shift work experts, right? So they become shift work champions. So you go to work, Greg, I coach you and teach you how to go about optimizing your life in shift work. And then while you're on crew driving around working with your colleagues, and you're seeing people struggling and not going about things the right way, or having those conversations, you're able to advise people, hey, try this or try that. And it starts to turn people around in a big way. And this is the new line that I'm going down now.
Awesome. And then, so what does it kind of look like with one-on-one coaching, right? Obviously, you're able to do it virtual, right? So if people that
Mhm.
are listening to this are in America reach out to you,
Yes.
how does that kind of look
Yeah.
working with you one on one?
What I do is I offer anyone that's struggling with shift work, I highly invite them to come and have what I call a free 15-minute one-to-one coaching assessment call with me, where I have a conversation with them and see what is it you're struggling with. What is
Yeah.
it? Because some people struggle with sleep, some people struggle with weight. Generally, it comes the same. So what I do is have a conversation with them, and then I show them how I can explain to them that I can help them. And then they go into a 12-week one-to-one coaching program where I get all of the questions. I send a whole heap of questions out to them for them to answer around self-esteem, body image, and so that I can attack them from different areas. My
Got it.
attitude is to fix the 6 inches between the ears to get rid of the 6 inches around the waist. That's always the best way to attack it, right? And then every single week, I meet up with them virtually at a time that suits them. So I make myself available all weekend and Monday and Tuesday. At some stage, we meet up, we have a half an hour conversation every week where they talk to me about what roadblocks they've hit, and then we navigate those to come up with strategies that they won't have thought of around that. They have an app. But I have my own app where it is habit-based and routine-based. So I teach them to tick off habits and routines to help them to start to gain momentum. I find that once they start to gain momentum, they actually become unstoppable once they learn where they're going wrong and they're open to changing the way they've been doing it. Once they learn where they've been going wrong, they then start to really feel good and start to gain momentum. And when that happens, of course, the weight comes off, people feel so much better. And
Mhm.
the beauty of that is too, Greg, for the organisation, when someone's feeling better off duty and away from work, they perform so much better at work as
Mhm.
well. And the organisation benefits out of that.
Yeah, and I completely get that, and I appreciate you breaking that down because it really is true where you want the best product out on the streets, right? Not
Correct.
only for the shift workers out there, the firefighters, the police officers, but you're wearing the patch on the uniform.
Yep.
So you want the best product to represent your department, but then also for the citizens and the public, right? So it's you can have it in your mission statement that hey, we strive, our mission is to serve and protect the citizens and uphold a high standard of law enforcement, public safety. A part of that is ensuring that your shift workers are mentally and physically prepared.
I agree.
And I think there's a big I'd say a big lack of awareness around the shift work mentality with like not only mental health but physical health as
Oh,
well, and a lack
oh
of
yeah.
those resources, right? So, and that's why you start to see cops who are burnt out, cops who are tired all the time, cops who are overweight, and you got the little belly that's hanging over the duty belt, and it just does not look good, you know?
No, but not only that, but they feel miserable, Greg. You
Yeah.
know as well as I do. No one feels good when your gut starts to hang over your duty belt, or when you put your uniform on, it's tight, right? And they think that dieting is the solution, and they think, "Oh no, I can't diet. I can't do a diet. I love food." It's not the diet. It's actually everything sitting over the top of the diet that is causing all of those problems. And I think the question on your point in relation to what the department's mission statement is and how they're showing up, because management are putting these things in place, albeit that some management could really take a lesson themselves as to how they look and appear and turn up. But you've got to ask yourself, are you turning up as the best version of yourself?
Yeah.
Are you turning up? Are you really? And then what people are too ready to do too, Greg, is they go, oh, but that's shift work. It's just shift work. This is what shift work does. Well, that's just a lame ass excuse. I'm sorry, but that's what it is. It's just an excuse. And I'll tell you how I know it's an excuse. Because if anybody turns up at work and works with Greg Grogan, he's turning up as the best version of himself. He's fit, he's healthy, he's in good shape mentally, he's doing the job, he's doing it enthusiastically, he's there. Now, he's doing the same job as you. So how come he's doing it better than you are? What's he doing that that
Mhm.
the others are not doing, right? So
Yeah.
I make that point to clients all the time. I don't want to hear your excuses, because there's people in your workplace that are turning up as the best version of themselves every time, and you are letting them down.
Hmm. Yeah, and the letting them down thing is one of the big things too, right? Where it's
Absolutely.
your lack of working on yourself and taking care of yourself
Yep.
also affects your fellow shift workers.
It sure
Um,
does.
and so I have a question that comes to mind is, out of all this work that you've done with these shift workers and seeing the mental side of things, the body image side, what's the most common thing that you see in our community that people struggle with?
Weight gain.
Weight gain?
Without any doubt whatsoever. And when they start to gain weight, it impacts so heavily on them in every way, right? Life, appearance, emotionally, the weight gain that comes with shift work. But there's a reason why shift workers gain weight, Greg. And there's massive reasons why shift workers gain weight. And it's not because we're the cop that drinks coffee and eats donuts overnight. It's purely because a lot of it is because around the timing. We'll get to that, but there's
Yeah.
the weight gain is the biggest issue because it impacts. And what happens is, if you start to gain weight yourself, then you start to feel miserable about it. So you start to go into this vortex of, I've got a diet, I feel miserable, I don't feel sexually attractive, I don't feel up and about, I've lost my confidence because I don't know what to wear when I go out. It impacts massively. And then it starts a whole spiral of going into this diet binge, which gains more weight, and then you end up in a massive issue for yourself that you can't break it. But there's some simple habits and routines that you can do that will break that cycle. You've just got to be patient. And I think the other thing that is just important for people to understand, majority of the people that are listening to this podcast would be under 50, I would suggest. Under
Mhm.
50. Let me be very clear with you. You are not even halfway through your life. So what you've traveled so far and the damage that you've done over the last 5 years or 6 years, you can easily turn around if you're patient and in 10 years' time be a much better version of yourself. And I think that's the most important thing for people to understand. At 50 or under, how can people say, oh, I'm 45, it's too late? Give me a spell, right? You've got many, many years. Get out, go for a walk, lift weights, eat the right foods at the right times, and just make little changes, and things make a big difference in your life, and you start to gain confidence. The other thing is, when you start to gain that confidence, you then start to get promotions within your department and start to get recognized within your department as well, which is another point that a lot of people come to me broken, done, miserable, overweight, can't handle themselves. They carry that into the workplace. You work with them, Greg, and I did too. They're
Mhm.
miserable people to be around. No one wants to be around. When they apply for a position above them or a supervisory role, management goes, you got to be joking, not a chance. And then they get more miserable.
Yep.
Whereas the person that's looking after themselves and starts to put little things in place, they gain confidence. They have that aura about them. This aura starts to really, it's a very positive energy around them. And management goes, I want you in charge of my crew. Done. How
Yeah,
true?
and it is true, 100%. I've seen it, and that definitely helps the career progression and not getting stuck in a rut
Yeah.
with your career when you're already kind of stuck in a rut with taking care of yourself physically and mentally, right?
It has a two-way effect in a
Yep.
massive way, but only you can break into that cycle. No one
Mm.
else is going to do it for you. People think, oh, if I get this job, I'll be better. No, no, no. You've got to
Yeah.
be better to get the job. That's how it's got to work.
Mhm. Got it. Sweet. And let's see. Yeah, I appreciate the breakdown. So obviously, people can go to your website to learn more about that, right? Get the free 15-minute consultation.
Yes.
Um, and do you work with people in that live in America
Yeah.
now, or you can, right?
I've coached a number of police in the USA. I've also coached people in corrections in the USA. They work a very brutal roster as well in corrections. In Canada and North America, all through North America, I've coached people. Um, I'll coach anyone to help them with simple strategies. And the one thing that I want to make very, very clear to people, Greg, is my coaching is so easy. It's not about weighing yourself every day. It's not about taking before and after photos and doing measurements and having to go to the gym 6 days a week and resistance train for an hour and a half. Mine is very simple habits and routines that people just put a few in place and start to gain momentum. Then we put a few more habits in place. And then all of a sudden, they're going, oh my God, I feel so much better. I'm starting to really thrive now. And then we start adding more when they're ready. My program is very bespoke to each individual that comes to me. It's not a rote system where, it's not a cookie cutter. Greg lands on the assembly line. This is where you get to. This is where you get to.
Yeah.
You do a check-in every week where we look at wins, we look at losses, we look at roadblocks, right? And then we discuss that every single week in my coaching program to help you to navigate it. You and I find a way to do it because it's unique to your life. What you can do, some other people can't do.
Yeah. 100%. No, I appreciate you breaking that down and kind of elaborating on that a little bit, because I'm sure there are definitely some people that are probably listening to this or have been already kind of thinking like, hey, the body image or the stress of being a shift worker, I got to work on something.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think it's sometimes it's that tough part, accepting it and then actually reaching out for help,
That's the biggest step. The biggest step is reaching out. And we talk about this with mental health a lot, you and I, Greg. The first step is reaching out. Once you reach out, that's it. That's the hardest step over because, and this goes the same in our jobs as well. The hardest step is to open your mouth and reach out. Once you've done that, the person, a friend in need is a friend indeed, is a philosophy that I was taught. So if someone comes to you and says, I need help with this, that person is going to put their arm around you and is going to do whatever they can to help you. Whether that's nutrition, whether it's lifestyle factors around shift work, or whether it's a mental health challenge, they're going to help you because you've asked for help. It's something that people just need to get their head around. You're not a burden to anybody else when you ask. Someone's humbled by the fact that you've actually asked them. So when someone actually reaches out to me, I then grab them with my arms and say, I've got you, right? I've got you. Just sit back now and I will help you with this. We will break things down. We will do simple things that I will look at your home life. I will look at your working life. I will look at your social life, and we will find ways to implement little things to break that cycle to help you to move forward. And it's easy from there on in. It really is very easy. It's a whole new life. And let's be honest, you need a new life because that's why you reached out. So let's reach into that new life and enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to note that, right? Where it's like, hey, the hard part is reaching out, and after that, like you got somebody there that's going to take care of you, that knows what they're doing. And one of the things that I hear a lot is we're so easy to feel okay and comfortable with calling on the radio for help, be like, hey, I need help, and then you have all the blue lights coming to you, right? But when you're off duty or you need help physically or mentally, we're like so hands offish.
This is so true. It's a great analogy. That is a fantastic analogy. You wouldn't hesitate to come up on the radio and call for help,
Yeah.
would you? And I think one point that I would really like to make when it comes to shift workers as well, Greg, which is a really important point. What has your new normal become? What has your new normal become? Think about that, because where you were at early compared to where you're at today is totally different. Where you started, when you started your career, what was your new normal? Your new normal is now different. It doesn't make it right. It means that you have adapted to that. And that will continue to escalate as you continually adapt to it. It's not right. This is where we need to get these breathwork practices in. We need to learn to self-regulate. We need to learn to switch off and move away from our job so that we've got other things to focus on instead of just living in that. And this is where weight gain, I've started to gain weight. And for some reason, when people start to gain weight, they tend to eat more. They just more highly processed foods because they feel miserable. So they use food as a comfort because mum Always. You fell over when you were a child, mum would give you a Band-Aid and a cookie. Always, right?
Yeah.
She
You
would
would stop
reward you with
crying
a
when you
cookie.
eat. Yeah.
You know, and you think about it, it was always, we're rewarded with food. We would have a birthday party. It's always food, cake and sausages and or hot dogs and, you know, party pies, and all of the food is always there. We celebrate with food. We celebrate Easter with food. You celebrate Thanksgiving. Let's think about it. Thanksgiving isn't about people getting together. It's about food. It's a celebration of food, isn't it? Who's
Yeah.
coming for Thanksgiving dinner? It's not about who's catching up with who. It's about food. Christmas, food. Everything's food. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. We just have to learn how to self-regulate that. That's all.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you on that. Um, and I think this is a good kind of transition point to talking about the career as a shift worker, specifically
Mhm.
as police officers. And something that just kind of came to mind that I want to bring up is in Louisiana, we just had two deputies that were shot, and one actually ended up, unfortunately, passing. And I know we want to touch on some terrible incidences that have gone on
Mm,
in your neck of the woods down under.
mm,
Uh, and I know it's not as common in Australia, but unfortunately in the U.S. we're seeing officers unfortunately being shot and or seriously wounded almost every day now, and it's tragic, right? Like it's becoming really really bad. um and I know we're going to touch on the sovereign citizen part of things, but I
yeah,
do want to hear you kind of talk about the that incident, kind of break it down for the listeners, and then we talk about it a little bit from there, if you're okay with that.
absolutely. Um, First of all, on the 26th of August here at a remote property outside of where I live, and it's a very remote property. And as for those people who are listening that have got a handle on sovereign citizens, unfortunately, and I think this has become more and more pertinent since COVID, because a lot of people don't trust the government or the vaccines, or they just don't trust the government at all, and the conspiracy theories and things like that are all
Hmm.
out there. You know, and it's conspiracy theory or not, I understand why some people question some. I certainly question some myself, but I'm not a sovereign citizen, right? Now, sovereign citizens, as we know, for those that are not aware, are people who literally have no respect for law. They have no respect for any form of regulation by any government body in any way whatsoever. And we have a massive problem with that. And here in Australia, and particularly here in Melbourne, which was the world's most locked down city, we were nearly locked down for 2 years during COVID, right? Nearly a whole 2 years. It was massive down here for us. It was a problem. And we have a lot of sovereign citizens here now. And we had 10 police, 10. Now, that would tell you something. We had 10 officers going to execute a warrant on a property in a place called Paw, which is outside of Melbourne. Now, the fact that they went with 10 officers would tell you that they had done their due diligence, you would think, right? There was requests made for the next level, like our SWAT, so to speak, because we don't have SWAT, we have our SOG, and that was denied because it's remote and you guys can handle this. And off they went to this property. And they ended up in well, I'm going to use the term shit fight with the owner. He lives in a bus on a remote property, and it ended up in a shooting where two officers were immediately shot dead. Bang, just like that. Did not expect it, right? Did not expect that. Yeah, a bit of push and shove and a bit of yelling, maybe, yeah, but not to pull a gun out and just shoot people on the spot like that.
Yeah.
The offender, after killing two of the police on scene, then took off into the bush. And that was 44 days ago, Greg, and we haven't seen him since. And he's still not in custody. As to whether he's still alive, whether he's still in the area, or whether he is deceased, we just don't know. But we still have the deaths of two of our officers, and both young. When I say both young, one was a week from retirement, one was a week from retirement. He was due to retire and postponed his retirement by, I think, a month. And then this was his last job that he was going to. Last job. And it took his life, right? Which is incredibly sad.
Yep.
The other young fella was up there on a temporary assignment. As you know, we backfill and we move people around on secondments, and he was up doing that, and he was taken out as well. And the ripple effect of these two deaths through Victoria Police, because we are state police here. We're not just small police departments around cities. We are a whole state of police, which our police department here has 18,000 sworn members. And it's a big department. And this ripple effect of these two murders has impacted on people more than anything I have ever experienced, ever. Because I think the police have worked very, very hard without any support. I know the police here don't feel supported by the government. They don't feel supported by the public. They don't feel supported by their management. They don't feel supported by anyone. So when some person takes out two of them, they've all thrown their hands in the air and gone, why would we do this? Why would we do this? And it's a valid question.
Yep.
Why would we do this?
Why would you put yourself at risk? Why would you put in all this work to have to put in extra work for your physical and mental health? Why would you be away from your family, work a night shift, all that? I get it.
Yeah, why would you? And this has really had a massive impact. But the way that officers, and I'm so proud of some of the people that I follow, is they've released like T-shirts and challenge coins and patches that they can wear. And what do the department do? Tell them they can't wear their patches on their uniform, which is, well, I don't know whether you know, but here in Australia we have the Aussie flag with the thin blue line on it, and a lot of people want to wear it like the US do, that you have your American, but we're not allowed to wear it anymore. We're not allowed to wear that. We're not allowed to wear it because some vocal minority has raised that it's to do with the Black Lives Matter thing. It's got nothing to do with us, but they won't allow us to wear that. There's a patch. We had 4 officers killed when a truck ploughed through 2 police cars parked on the side of the road, going back I'd say 4 or 5 years ago now, 4 years ago. 5 years ago, during COVID it was. 5 years ago, when there was a car that was intercepted, 2 police cars were there, and a truck on a 5-lane freeway came straight over and drove straight through all 4 members and killed all 4 members. And there was a patch that was created for that as well, and members have been told to remove that patch from their uniform as well. Now, this is how management divide and cause massive problems to the rank and file, because the rank and file need this solidarity and to show they're not portraying Black Lives Matter or they're not portraying. It's the thin blue line, and it's a recognised symbol worldwide. As you know, you see the American flag with a blue line through it. It means the thin blue line you are representing. Anyway, the problem that we have now is this offender still is unknown, unlocated in relation to these police murders. And this is weighing heavily on our officers. And I know from conversations that I've had with even our equivalent to SWAT officers that are up there searching, like we've got 300 members up there every single day scouring bush. And you know, Greg, from your own experience, bush searching is really difficult. Like, you are very exposed, particularly when you've got an offender that you know is quite willing to just take anybody out, right?
Yeah, difficult and dangerous, right? And it's so easy to be in a defensive position like that, to set up shop, and you know that person doesn't want to be caught, so they're going out shooting more than likely. So just
and he has the advantage, doesn't he? Like, he's got 100%. A massive advantage.
100%.
And the footage, and I must send it to you, but the footage they've shown of these SWAT officers or SOG officers crawling into caves and through mine shafts with dogs, looking for either a body or this offender, head first with dogs going into these, is incredible. And they've released the footage to show people, because everyone's going, how come he hasn't been caught yet? Like, where's your thermal imaging? Where's this? It's all being used, obviously. And the technology that we don't even know exists, that, you know, it's all being used. Just doesn't make it any easier. So they're still up there 44 days later, still looking at a cost of like $250,000 a day at the moment, with no result. And that is weighing heavily on our SWAT or our SOG, because they feel like the job's not done. Like they're saying, oh, you get a bravery award. We don't want it. It's like you don't want the bravery award. You want the job done. You want closure on it. You want to be
Yeah.
able to walk out
You
with
want,
the offender one way
you,
or another and say, I've done the job.
yeah. Yep. And you want justice. You want to be able to close that out.
Yep.
And so with that, Roger, what's your opinion? Like, what should departments and the higher management be doing for, I'd say not only the officers, but also for the families of that department, that area, right? Like
Yep.
out here, we're seeing so many officers shot, seriously wounded. Like I just mentioned, this deputy in Louisiana that was shot and killed. What do you think? What, in your opinion, what should these officers or these departments be doing for the officers and for the families after a traumatic event like this?
I think it's very, very challenging because there's so many involved. I know one thing that you can't do. You can't send them an email and tell them that you're available if they want to talk to someone. You can't do that. I personally feel that management needs to hear from people who are very, very trauma informed in incidents like this. And I think, we spoke prior to this podcast starting about people like Brooke Bartlett and also Jenna Cussis, talking about those people who are very trauma informed. And management needs to reach out to them and say, what should we be doing? Not arrogantly standing there saying, oh, we've done this, or we've put a flyer on the wall, or we've sent them an email. How do we approach this? What should we be doing? Because, as you know, we learn more and more and more going down the track about how to approach these, how to debrief these, how to support people. We shouldn't be leaving the troops up to just supporting themselves. You can't ring and make a phone call and say to someone, how are you going? What's their answer going to be, Greg?
Good.
Good. Okay, no worries, thanks. Tick the name off. Yep, Greg's good.
Yeah.
Greg's
Yeah.
good. I rang him. I asked it. I've got a note in the diary. Greg's good.
Yeah.
I actually recorded a podcast on this. I haven't published it yet, but it's talking about what we should be doing as managers to people. Like one thing that I learned in my time is I would say to Greg, hey, Greg, how are you feeling about that incident that we went to the other day? What's your first reaction? Yeah, good. I'm good. Then it's up to me to say, well, actually, I can't stop thinking about it. It's impacting on me more than what I actually expected. Whether that's true or not, if you can see a person struggling, you can say, it's actually impacting on me more than I expected. That is where the other person opens up. When you say that, you've got to show vulnerability. You can't stand there, can you?
No, Roger, I'm really glad you brought that up, and I like that because it's showing vulnerability on your part, and it's
Yes.
allowing them permission to say, "Wow, it affected Roger, it affected Greg," and maybe it's like, "Hey, Greg has 10 years on, he was on the SWAT team, and this little call is affecting him." Wow, like
it's okay to
yes,
be
it
affected.
actually is affecting me. Yeah,
it's okay to be affected. And I think the best thing that we can possibly do in our jobs today, and I don't care whether you're a paramedic, whether you're a dispatcher, whether you are frontline police, or whether you or military, whoever you are, if you've been involved in some sort of an incident, I think it's our duty, as if we've got a bit of experience, I think, is to go back and say to them, how are you going with that? Now, that's not lip service. This is opening a conversation because you're saying to them, how are you going? So you're showing compassion, that you care genuinely, but it becomes more genuine when you then open up and say, I can't stop thinking about it. I just can't stop thinking about it. I can see his face, or I can see this, or it keeps on coming up. And then the person goes, oh, like you rightly said, this person's got 10 years and he's struggling with it. Okay. Yeah, no, actually, I've been thinking about it as well. In fact, I've written myself off with alcohol for the last 3 nights to try and get to sleep. Now we've got conversations happening, right?
yeah, and I actually just talked about this last week with a fellow coworker about the difference between like full debriefings for critical incidents,
Yep.
but also like defusing. So like defusings are on a smaller scale where it's, hey, after a call for service, let's all get together and be like, just like what you said, Roger, like, hey, like, are y'all doing good after that? Like, I know to some it may just be a nothing call, but to others, like, we don't know what your life was like before you were 21 years old, before you
Cool.
became a police officer. Like, is everybody doing okay? Are you good for the next call or the next incident? Like, we genuinely want to check on each other. And what that does is that creates a bond within the team, and you're able to see people's physical reactions essentially after a call for service that may affect them. But
Yep.
then it also normalizes you checking in on people and having healthy conversations around it.
I
So when you
agree.
do have that big critical incident, you're you're more comfortable and more inclined to potentially reach out and be like, yeah, I'm used to talking about this all the time after our calls. I'm struggling. I couldn't sleep last night at all.
Yep.
You know, for an example.
Yeah, no, I agree. Because what do we tend to do as well? I don't know what the culture is like in the US, but after a big incident, everyone says, "Let's go down the pub and have a drink."
Choir practice.
Choir practice. I
Yeah.
love it. You use the same term. Let's go
Yeah.
for choir
Oh,
practice.
yeah.
Everyone says it. Yeah, let's go for choir practice. We'll head to the Starlight Room. Right, we go to the Starlight Room and we have choir practice. So what we're saying there is we go to anyone listening from outside of the organisation, we go down to the pub where everyone vents. But what we're doing is drinking. We're not closing the loop. Now,
Yeah.
I recently, Greg, did a breathwork facilitation course where I'm now certified as a breathwork facilitator, which is another avenue that I can coach people in as well.
Okay.
I have learned that what I said to you before about what is our new normal, because we continually escalate and adjust to this new normal of our mental health being impacted, is we've got to learn to self-regulate and close those loops before we open the next one, right? So we as police, military, paramedics, nurses, we go from one code red to another, one job to the next, and we're not getting time to actually process them. And what happens is these get trapped in our nervous system. All of them, they're all trapped in our nervous system. Now, you might not think they are, but they actually are. And we need to learn to self-regulate, to close those and deal with them before we move on to the next incident. Otherwise, the more of those get trapped, the next thing that happens is all of a sudden you have a complete nervous breakdown, bang, because your
Yeah.
body can't take any more. And this is what bites a lot of people in a really big way in our jobs, that they keep going and they think, no, I'm right. And all of a sudden they completely collapse. And you will have seen it in your time, and I've certainly seen it in mine. And I think, wow, like that's scary. That won't happen to me. That won't happen to me.
Yeah, and I can guarantee that every single first responder or military member has probably seen that, right? Like, more often than
Absolutely.
not, a majority of the people would raise their hands. And I think we get so used to being busy, picking up overtime, working a traffic detail on a day off, starting early, having court appearances, going to trainings, that you're so busy, you get used to that, right? And then
Yep.
you touch on the burnout and everything, but also it's the cumulative stress that we hold on to.
Yes.
And if you're not proactively working on, like, taking a few of those calls for service that are affecting you out of your backpack, right? You're going to carry those, because there's a book out there, like, The Body Keeps the Score.
Yeah. Yep.
And usually what you see a lot of, and I feel like it's getting better now, is you see all these first responders and service members that are holding on to all this, right? No, I'm fine, I'm not affected. And then they go to get into retirement life, the calls stop, you're not waking up, you're not putting on the uniform, you're not with your fellow shift workers anymore. And
Up it
then
all comes.
exactly, yeah. And something that I want to talk about as we kind of
Yes.
transition is, like, having your personal values and separating the
Mhm.
shift work, the department, and personal life, and kind of um ensuring that you're taking care of yourself and doing the things that you enjoy outside of work.
My coaching is value based. So one of the first exercises that I get clients to do is to identify their values and what they value, and to write down 5 values and to put them on the fridge. Write the 5 words. What do you value? One might be health, might be relationships, it might be whatever, right? And
Mhm.
once we've gone through and we've identified what those 5 values are, we then focus on working towards what you value in those values. Because when you do that, there's no conflict in your head in any way whatsoever, because you are
Sure.
working towards what you value. I find that over my 40 years in my time in the police, that my values completely changed from the organisation. Now, it's okay to change your values, because your values do change. Like, your values now, Greg, would be very different to what they were even 2 years ago,
Yeah,
right? You
100%.
got married. You're married now. You've changed
Yep.
where you live. You're in a situation where it would have changed, and that's okay. But what you've also got to do is look at whether they line up with your organisation's values as well. Because I know a lot of shift workers that I've coached that once they identify their values, the amount of people who have then recognised that their values don't align with their organisations anymore. Like, I can openly talk about this now. I think my organisation has become so woke now that I don't align with it. It frustrates me. It angers me when I see their social media posts, when I hear what management does and how management's going about doing certain things. It severely aggravates me. So why does it do that? It's because I don't value it, right? It's not my values. So that's why I came to the conclusion that it was time to go in the end. People ratting on each other. Now, you know that you see this all the time, Greg, in police now, that people will use you as a stepladder to get to the next job. And this is literally what happened to me. And I don't value that. I want to be able to trust my colleagues. You've done time in SWAT, you've done time in the uniform on teams. You need to have the utmost trust for all of the people that you work with so that you know that you can trust them. The question I ask you is, do you fully 100% trust them today compared to what you did 10 years ago? I'll bet you the answer is, I'd like to, but I'm not sure of the sum that I can.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. And then you're
Right?
you're questioning that, and then if you go to a job together, or they're your backup, and you're butting heads, or you don't trust them, it's clouding your judgment and your awareness, right?
Yeah,
Like, and
absolutely.
we go back to when it's like, hey, you want to be on your A game, right? Like, the department wants to provide officers on the road going to these jobs that are on their A game, right? They're going to
Yep.
provide the best service. They're
Yep.
physically, they're mentally sound. They
Yep.
trust their fellow shift workers.
Yeah, you've got to be able to trust. But it's not only that, but then we started finding out that people are ratting people and things like that through the department. And I've heard some stories recently that I'm so glad I'm out of it, right? Because I don't value that behaviour. I don't value that behaviour in any way whatsoever. And I don't want to be the next victim of that behaviour. Now, when we talk about values, you look at your organisational values and be honest, that every organisation publishes their values and what they value, right? They do. Whether they live to them or not is very subjective with a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
But they do publish their values. Do yours line up with them? Because I honestly believe that a lot of mental health in police officers and military in particular nurses are the same too. What they value and what their management values are poles apart, or what they're demonstrating is poles apart. How can that be a harmonious relationship? Can't.
It can't. And you know what you get there, Roger, is you get the divide where, and I just heard this today, where it's like you realize that you're just another number. You're just an
You are.
employee, essentially. And it's like a big organization, and they need X amount of officers to fill beat number one. You need X amount of dispatchers to fill the dispatcher center, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and when you
That's
see
right.
stuff like this and your values don't line up, or you see the admin or the organization not taking care of its members or not backing them up, or I can go on, right?
Yes. Yep.
You lose the trust, you lose the willingness to want to be better for yourself, for the agency, for the department.
100%.
That makes sense?
100%. Why would you give everything when it doesn't line up with your values? You're not working towards what you value. So why
Yeah.
would you do that? And I think one of the saddest things in particular is police, not so much military, but in particular police, so institutionalized. We all become we think we can't do anything outside of this job. I signed up for this. I'm stuck in it. No, you are not, right?
Yeah.
Go. Because you are a cancer when you're like that, right? When your values no longer align, like you've got young people where you work now, they're so enthusiastic. They've come in and they value the department's values where they're at today. Right?
Mhm.
They do, because that's why they've joined, and they're there and they're doing the job and everything's going really well. But then the crusty old Sarge, or the watch commander, or whatever you've got, it doesn't line up with him, and he becomes bitter, and the fish rots at the head all the way down, and it causes massive problems in the team. Just go, because you are a cancer.
Mhm.
Move on and go and do what you do value, because there's so many different jobs. You can go and work in a hardware store selling hammers, right?
Yeah.
You can do that. Go and work in a hardware store and sell hammers. It makes you happy. In fact, I'll tell you a story, Greg. My best mate is did 43 years and started to suffer. He was betrayed by management, right? That's what I call it. I was betrayed. He was betrayed as bad. And he was in our local hardware store one day, and he went and asked the man. He said, "G'day, mate. I'm just after a let's just say a hammer, right?" And the bloke said, "Yeah, follow me. Come with me." And went down, and he got the hammer, and he showed him the hammer, and he showed him all the different types of hammers and how it can hammer and everything else. And he walked off with the hammer, and he thought, he had an epiphany, and it was, how happy was this bloke in his job? How happy was he? He's happy doing this. He's happy showing people. He goes,
Yeah.
that's not me. I'm not
Yeah.
like that. I'm bitter. I'm twisted. When the phone rings at the desk, I think, oh, God, who's this? What do they want? They get on the phone. It's Mrs. Tibbins. She's got trouble. She can't get her cat out of the tree. And you think, oh, for God's sake. And that is the first sign that you're done.
And you, so Roger, I'll tell you this. I was very close to that point out in California.
Yep.
I was very close to it where it would be we'd have to go to every call for service, right? And
Yep.
take a report or do the most, right? If not, you'd get in trouble or you'd get a talking to. And there would be so much theft, so much crime, and there would be so much work that goes into the investigation, and then nothing happens or the person gets scot free, right? And you get to the point where
Why
like
bother?
I'll be the first to admit it. There were times, Roger, where I got dispatched to some calls where I would answer the radio, acknowledge the call for service, and then be like, "Mother, like, oh my
Yep.
god, again, like I can't." And then you go there, and you're not acting as you should. You're not the
No.
best product for the department.
No.
You're upset. You're frustrated. You're short fused, which I
Yep.
have definitely experienced.
Yes.
You're more likely to get into a use of force incident, right? You don't have the compassion on the calls for service, and I think it comes from a lack of I would say like taking care of your shift workers, taking care of the department, and then also like the values too. And it just
Oh,
I've
yep.
been there.
I
I've
agree.
been there.
Every single police officer's been there, Greg. What you just experienced by answering the call on the radio and dropping the mic back in the cradle or throwing it to the passenger seat. How many times have you done that? I know.
Yeah,
Sometimes
yeah,
you've answered it and then thrown it into the passenger
yeah.
seat and it's bounced down into
Uh,
the footwell. Like, we've all done it. Everybody's done that. Frustrated. What? Are you kidding? Are we going back to this address again? How come they're not doing rah, 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 rah? But what happens is that becomes our new normal, and we don't realize, we're not starting to recognize that what this has become, and I can talk about this now because I've educated myself on it, is compassion fatigue as well. And compassion fatigue, I think you've had her on the podcast as well. I'm just trying to think of her name now. But she talks about compassion fatigue, and it's fantastic. That we get stress, and then we get burnout, but then beyond burnout, we get compassion fatigue. Now, this is rife in nursing, but it's also rife in policing. What you've experienced there by the microphone, acknowledging the call and slamming it in the cradle or throwing it into the passenger seat, is literally compassion fatigue. And it's worse than burnout. You've got to the stage where you just don't care anymore. You just don't care. You've got nothing left to give. Nothing left to give. You're in pure survival mode just for yourself, and you can't keep giving. And this is so dangerous for people. So dangerous. We don't recognise it. But people in the station, and when the phone in the police station rings, and you just look at it, you think, oh, I just want to avoid that. I can't give it any more. How many
Mhm.
times does the phone ring and then 8 men walk off and leave the
Yeah.
rookie to answer the phone?
Uh-huh. Yeah. And so with that, I just thought of some. I kind of want to bring it up and get your opinion on it. I feel like a lot of agencies, when you have something like that, say you have a shift worker that's in complete compassion fatigue, burnt
Yep.
out, go to a call and they're not as respectful as they should be. They should have
Yep.
taken a report, but they didn't take a report. A lot of agencies, departments are so quick to write somebody up, to give them a negative counseling or something and be like, you should have done this, you're getting a day suspension or a negative counseling in your jacket. And they're not being like, hey,
What's
this
going
is
on?
not like you. This is not
No.
like you. What is going on? Like, are you okay? Do you need something from us? This is not normal. Like, we watched your body cam video footage. This is not the norm for you. What's going on? I feel like departments are so quick to do the easy thing, to be like, here's here,
Yeah.
we need you to sign this. You're getting written up for the way that you were acting on this call, and then they're out of the office.
Right. Now, this is where the point that you made there is I could not agree more with that. So that you know, this is not only the US, this is rife worldwide now, right? In policing agencies through the UK, through Europe, and also in particular here. And I think because a lot of managers have no idea how to actually manage, I think we need to inform more leadership, people in leadership. This is the exact reason, and the podcast that I've recorded will be coming out in the next couple of weeks. But I've recorded this on signs for leaders in shift working environments, particularly frontline health and emergency services. What should we be looking for as leaders, right? Behavior change. Now, don't look at a person's BWC and then turn around and go, oh, that's disgraceful, and write them up. You've actually just added to their problem, right? You've actually caused a bigger issue by doing that. And this is the biggest problem that I see in policing today. What about pulling that person in and saying, and you can't accuse them either. Don't accuse, because accusing is actually worse, because it's human nature to be defensive. What you got to say is, I noticed this. What's going on? How are you going? Is something going on in the background? Exactly as you just flagged. What's going on? Because this behavior is not you. Or this mistake that you made, this is highly irregular. What's going on? Have conversations around that. Not everybody makes mistakes, Greg. No matter where they are, what they do, how they go. Some people can have issues at home. They can have issues in their life. It could be they couldn't pay a bill. There's a mortgage. There's a fight with their girlfriend. They go to work and all of a sudden they take it out on someone. It's not right, but everybody's done it. Every single cop has done that, right? Or military or anybody. They've all done this. But the managers have to address what's going on? Are you okay? Without accusing, because their default position is to accuse someone and write them up. And how does that help the situation? What do you think? Punishing them helps that situation?
It doesn't, and it makes it even worse. And
Of course
I
it does.
always say it's easier for that member, that person, to continue to go down the roller coaster
Yep.
and start sinking than to actually be checked on, to be like, okay, you made a mistake, you've been acting off, we've gotten a few complaints, let's talk about it, let's work on it, maybe take a few days off, you need to recover, you've been working a lot, let's get you on the right track, get you
Yeah.
out back on the streets, and then we'll check in with you in a week.
Yep.
Not only is that
It's
thinking of
productive.
that
Yeah.
officer, it's productive, it's
Yep.
not only taking care of that officer, but it's ensuring that his or her fellow coworkers are
Yeah.
also being taken care of,
Of
but
course.
also the department, the agency, is providing a better product for the citizens of the city of San Francisco, the city of et cetera.
Yep.
You know what I
I
mean?
agree. Totally. Because they're doing their due diligence then, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're actually protecting. But you don't do that by charging someone and suspending them and sending them off into the oblivion, which is literally what happens. And I don't know what it's like in the US, but here, when someone's interviewed and charged with an offence, you're suspected of an offence, right?
Yeah.
Or you've done something wrong.
Uh-huh.
Why does it take the department so long to solve the problem? right? What was it to investigate it? Like here, it can take 12 months, 2 years. This person's sitting at home without a job doing this. This happens a lot. And I think we're in a position where we need to expediently handle these things and deal with them. But I think the first port of call is not to accuse. I think even the terminology that you use then saying, oh, we've had some complaints from your colleagues. What about some other people have raised some observations as well? You know what I mean? Because if someone lodges, who's made a complaint? Like, because you're already fragile, remember, or there may be something going on. So as soon as you say, oh, listen, I've had 3 or 4 complaints, who's made complaints? What are they saying? Why are they saying that? You know, I think we just, as I said, the podcast is to watch behaviour, monitor behaviour. I think another good thing to have as well, Greg, is at the end of a debrief at an incident, is to ask people, what are you going to do in your days off to decompress from this? It's a simple conversation, but what are you going to do to decompress from this? Because some people will say, I'm going to go to the pub and I'm going to get myself smashed, you know, like the boys and I are going to get together, we're going to do this or whatever. No, you know, and that's where we can have conversations around how people can do that. As a leader, you need to be saying, hey, Greg, what are you going to do to, you know, you've obviously, it's been a big incident. What are you going to do to decompress from this? And you might say, oh, I'm going hunting with Charlie on Friday. Awesome. Enjoy yourself. Have a great day. Do you know what I mean? Because you know that you're away from it. You're asking. It's a simple question. You know, not just people walking out. Next minute, next minute the phone rings and you found out that they've, you know, ended their life. This is common, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it is. It is. And then a lot of the times with the death by suicides, you think like, where could the agency have stepped in and
intervening.
actually taken like good actions to help that person? How many of these death by suicides could have been prevented, or a person from getting arrested or making a stupid decision? Like if the department took a little bit more time, or that supervisor recognized some of the signs, or listen to that podcast that you're about to drop, which I'm very excited to hear. Maybe just that little bit of awareness could have been like, guy, need to check in on this person, and maybe that could have prevented a big incident or a death by suicide. You know?
Do you? I ask you this question because I look at it from afar. Every time a picture is shared of an officer that's committed suicide or ended their life with suicide, what's your first thought?
I have a lot
Other
of
than that's so sad, but what's your first thought?
Yeah, the first thought when you see something on social media, like usually it's their photograph like in front of an
Yeah,
American flag for us in uniform. They look good. They're
devastating.
smiling. They're
Yep.
happy. Everything's taken care of, and you're thinking like, okay, what was going on behind the scenes that caused this death to happen?
That's the first thing I think of. I personally, my default position is, I wonder what that poor bloke was put through to get to that stage. That's what I think, or that poor girl as well, right? I always think, what were they put through? Because generally, when you dig in and you go into the back of a lot of these death by suicides that are done by military or first responders, it is literally what we're talking about. They've made a mistake, write them up, send them out into the oblivion, and they feel alienated by their job because, and then in Victoria here, you're not even allowed to communicate with them. If an officer is suspended, you've got to get permission to communicate with them as well. And it's
So
probably
then they're just left out by themselves. They don't even have their coworkers to check in on them.
no, they're hung out like a shag on a rock. So what was their life? And this is, we're going to talk about this. What was their life from the second they joined? They're involved in everything. They love everything about it. Everything's amazing. Oh, wow, love this job. I'm living in it, in and out. I'm sharing stuff on social media. I'm doing everything. Bang, it's gone. Simple little mistake because you were under pressure because something was going wrong. And all of a sudden, you're written up, you're suspended, and your colleagues are not allowed to contact you at all. And you're walking around going, everyone's forgotten me. No one cares. I'm just a number, because that's what that you are. You are literally just a number, and your managers don't care. You need to manage yourself. You've got to manage yourself from day dot. You've got to manage yourself.
Correct, 100%. And that's where I think like it's great to give all to the departments, all to the agencies, to the military, and hey, I'm going to go above and beyond. But, and I think unfortunately, a lot of people realize this when they go through shitty circumstances or incidents, and they kind of get screwed over. They're like,
Yep.
I've been putting in so much work. I've missed so many family events. I have been away from my family for so long. I've been introduced to a lot of trauma that's not only affected me but my family. Now I'm going through a tough time, and the department kind of screws me over. And that's where you start to see the headbutting going on. And then
Yes,
obviously
exactly.
we all talk. It's all like high school. Everybody knows each other's drama, and
Yep.
then it gets out, and it's and I think
And
it's
it
one
gets
of those
worse
things.
because then it filters back to management. This is what's been said and whatever. So
Right.
what do
Yeah.
they do? Human nature, they push back even harder on it. How dare you? You've spoken to such and such. How dare you say that? I'll write you up for this now as well. And it just compounds and compounds and compounds. And this is the problem.
Yeah.
We need to be a lot better at that. We need to be so much better at that. And I think we hedge off a lot of these conversations in exactly what you said. Hey, Greg, what's going on? I've noticed this. A few people have commented, let's have a chat. And if I say to you, no, I'm fine, just say, well, look, there's been some observations, because that might be just enough to snap them out of what they've done as well. But pulling them into the office and writing them up and sending them off suspended for a day is not the solution, which is
Yeah.
what the default position is today in departments. And we just do need to stop that. Got to
Yeah.
stop it.
Because it's just the easier option for them.
It is. Oh, it's so
It,
much easier because they don't have to have conversations. They just write you up. We'll just put this complaint in, send it off there. A lot of them won't even handle the complaints themselves. They'll send them to Internal Affairs, to IA, send it off to IA. All of a sudden, IA are knocking on the door. They're so gutless, they don't even have to deal with it themselves. So not only did they manage it, not only did they not manage it, not only did they not deal with it themselves, but they were such cowards that they've actually sent it off to someone else to handle it for them. And then they washed their hands of it because, well, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. But anyway, my advice to anybody starting in policing today, or military, or as a nurse or dispatcher or anything else, is to go to work, do the job, but you've got to manage yourself and don't expect anything at all back from your organisation. As soon as you start to expect something back from your organisation, and you rightly flagged just before, so many of us turn up every day and give our blood, sweat, and tears. We give our whole soul to the department. So we think when we hit the shit, then what's going to happen is it's going to come back and they're going to look after us. And that is not what happens. And people need to get their head around that. I used to lecture recruits at the academy, or rookies, as you call them, but I would lecture the recruits. And I would stand in front of them and I would say to them, the best piece of advice that I could give you today is to have a life and put boundaries in place between your working life and your home life. It is so important. You need to get out of those WhatsApp chat groups. You need to get out of those group chats. You've got to have a break. You've got to give yourself a mental break from it all so that you are at work and focused, but you've got this wonderful life outside of it as well, because that life within can be taken off you in a heartbeat with the type of management we have today. Where's that going to leave you?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think if you have the low expectations from the department and you're aware of that when you first start,
Yep.
you're less inclined to feel hurt and disappointed when you actually do get screwed over, right?
I totally agree. I'm actually going to give it a plug because I think it's a great book and you've got it as well. And Dr. Medina Baumgart has written a book called Surviving Retirement. A lot of people would pick this book up when they've got weeks left before they retire. I actually think it should be a book that's handed to recruits to read at the very beginning so that you understand how to structure your life in and out, because so many cops, military, first responders walk away from their job, as you said. The radio's going, job after job, busy shifts, sleep, back to work, sleep, back to work, jobs, more jobs, radio crackling, off we go to the jobs, one thing to the next, solve a problem, solve a problem, solve a problem. The next thing that we have is we retire. And what happens? All of a sudden, we're trying to solve the problems that the wife's giving us, and it doesn't go down well at all.
Yeah.
And it causes us problems. And I think this is a really good book that everyone should read. Surviving Retirement by Dr. Medina Baumgart.
Yeah, and I've seen it a lot of times with somebody being on the job for 5, 10 years and something happens, or say it's a medical retirement or injury
Yes.
where they can't be a police officer anymore. Then it's like, oh my Lord, like I wasn't prepared for this whatsoever. Now what do I do? Um, and that's why I think it's great. There are a lot of resources out there for kind of preparing for stuff like that. But it's something that people need to think about, right? Like it's so easy to get caught up in the brand new police officer, brand new firefighter, and
Oh,
this
yeah.
is my career path. But you need to have in the back of your head a plan B in case this career doesn't work out. What am I going to do next? What am I going to fall back on? What else am I good at? What can I see myself doing? And
Yeah.
having a backup plan, like it's the same thing when you go on like a search warrant or you have some sort of big call. It's like, hey, plan A is this. When plan A fails, we go to plan B. So I think it's important to have something set in place so that in the event it does happen, you're not scrambling. You're not, you
Yeah.
know.
I think what we need to do is, as I said, we focus on our values to start off with. Majority of people listening to this podcast would never have identified their values. If I said, what do you value? They'd go, health. They wouldn't know. Don't get me wrong. It's not being critical. It's just something that we don't think of, right?
Yeah.
And practicing gratitude as well, the things that we're grateful for, and looking through the gratitude lens outside of our job. Because our job can be really, really oppressive, right? We are seeing misery. And you would have seen Dr. Kilmartin's book as well, Emotional Survival for Law Enforcement.
Law enforcement.
Fantastic book, right? And he talks about it, because if I said to you, Scout Leader, what do you think, right? Because you and I would think exactly the same, right, Scout Leader? And we also think that 99.9% of society are absolute fruitcakes, but we're only dealing with 0.00001%, and generally a lot of those are fruitcakes. So we think all society are like that as well. It's about changing our thinking, because in our brain, we have a reticular activating system which filters everything that we see, hear, and think. And if we are looking through the lens of misery and this person's terrible and this is bad and this is dark and this is black and this is that and this is that, do you know what I mean? Then what happens is we start to see everything in that lens. Whereas if we start to practice gratitude about the things that are good in our life, our brain allows more of that good to come through for us to actually see and embrace. Like, you've got things in your life now that when you walk in through the front door, you truly value and you are very grateful for. You've got a new home, you're in a new area, you've got a new wife, everything's exciting for you, right? And so you embrace that, enjoy it. But you go to work and do a good job, look after yourself, go to work, do a good job. And that what you're doing outside of work is actually transferring to your life inside of work. I just wish I knew this in my career. I just wish I knew me in my career going back to understand. I wouldn't have listened to myself. I can tell you now, I wouldn't have done. But
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the common things, right? Like a lot of people that I am fortunate to have on the podcast, they come on and they share their story and they're like, hey, it took me 10 years and I
yes,
was forced to go to therapy. And now I'm like, I wish I went to therapy 5 years ago and started working on this. And they're like, don't be like Greg. Don't be like
yeah,
Travis. Don't be like how I was. And I think it's the great thing now with our community. We're seeing more of it, obviously, is people like yourself, people like me, and people that are willing to come on these podcasts to
yeah,
share their stories and be like,
yeah,
this is what I went through. This is what I was feeling. I didn't want to speak up. I didn't want to say, yes, I need help. I need assistance. I'm struggling. But damn, if I did, I could have lasted another 5 years. Maybe I would have saved my marriage. Maybe I would have gotten that detective position, etc.
yep,
And what that's doing, I think that's normalizing it for the shift workers that are early on in their career. If they hear that, to be like, oh, okay, I've heard this 4 or 5 times now from people that said they wish they started earlier,
yeah.
normalizing reaching out for help. And it's like, hey, maybe I should be doing that too, to take care of myself so my career lasts longer, my relationships are better, and I could prioritize self-care.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And what and one of the biggest problems that I think that a lot of our shift working community, because of the roles that they play, is they get to the bottom of the barrel before they seek help. Like they crash so badly,
Yes.
and it seems insurmountable to try and get out of it. I think once we start to recognize, oh, that's not right. Why did I react like that? Like, that's not right. That's not right. And another piece of advice, I've worked hard, right? So I was off, I was retired ill health. No secret there. I was retired ill health with PTSD. My PTSD was caused by sanctuary trauma, not by what I'd seen in the job, but by the way I was treated by management. But when I went to them with an issue, and that was traumatic for me because it was personal. Now, I honestly believe, and I've had conversations with, swap messages with Jenna around this, and that is, I think what I was exposed to in the job, and like what you've been exposed to as well, it's not personal at all. It's not personal, right? So you don't know that person. You don't know that person. Yes, there's death. We're dealing with death. We're seeing bodies. We're involved in shootings. We're involved in whatever. Yes, that all happens, but it's not personal. But when it comes from management and it's to you, like write a person up because they made a mistake, that's very personal. And that is just you. And that really hurts, right? That's what causes the trauma, which is why we shouldn't be writing up. We should be having conversations. But I went through a whole journey of poor me, woe me, damn me, like it's their fault. Where are they? Why aren't they contacting me? What are they doing? I haven't heard from them. Well, that's not their responsibility. I don't care. I need to take responsibility to look after myself. So I went on a journey of self-care, self-discovery, and self-help, doing a whole lot. I learned meditation. Now, people might say, oh, meditation. Meditation's life-changing when you learn how to do meditation. But what has really changed my life since, Greg, is breath work. And you would know, using breath work on your own journey as well, breath work's so important to control how we think and control that stress response in our body. And I've seen psychologists, psychiatrists. I was medicated. I'm proud to say that I'm medication free now for the last about 8 weeks now. I've been medication free. So I've got no medications at all. And I feel amazing, right? So I've come out of the journey. I've come out of it, but I've done that myself.
Yep.
Right. I didn't count on anybody.
Yeah.
Right?
With a lot of work behind it too. On yourself, for yourself, with a lot of work. That's great.
Being patient and working on it and understanding. But the ruling the line under it all for me was learning actual breath work. As I said, I'm a breath work facilitator now, but I went to learn that as another skill that I would have to help other people. But breath work and learning how to control your breath and how it informs the body of stress, amazing. Highly recommend everybody that's a first responder to go to, they're everywhere now, these breathwork facilitation places. Go along and learn breathwork, because that nose that's on your face is there for a reason. It's free, and you can actually learn to use it to control anxiety, to learn to control depression, to learn to control stress. You can actually control so much just by the way you breathe, because your breath is informing your body. Your body is not informing your breath.
Yeah, and I like that. And this is not the first time I've heard that with the breath work and how important it is. And more often than not, I hear a lot of the times after a call for service or when you get back in your unit, go park somewhere and you can close your eyes, focus on some breath work and do all that. But like, how do we remember how to do that? Because like it's so easy to go to a call and they'll be like, oh, I'm done. Park, back on Instagram, back on TikTok, back on, so what's the advice you got?
My advice is that, like everything, Greg, when you go into the gym and you pick up a weight, you pick up a 1 kilogram weight and you actually use it and you walk out of the gym and you think, well, that wasn't really worth it. It's done nothing, right? But then you go back and you keep doing that through repetition. And then all of a sudden you've got to pick up the 2 kilo weight, and then you've got to pick up, I'll talk pounds, 1 pound, 2 pound, 3 pound, then it's 10 pound. And before you know it, you're curling 20 pound dumbbells. It's the same with breath work. You start and you just allocate yourself a small amount of time and you count the breath in. Now, for anybody listening that wants to learn how to do breath work, just a simple breath work exercise post a stressful incident. Sit in the car. What about if you and your colleagues sit there and go, we're just going to sit here for 3 minutes and we're just going to do some breathing? Because it will bring your prefrontal cortex back online so you can start thinking straight again as well. So we breathe in through the nose for 4 seconds, and then we breathe out through the mouth with pursed lips for 8, right? So breathe in through the nose for 4 and breathe out through the mouth for 8 seconds through pursed lips, right? So very simple. And when you do that, put your hand on your navel and breathe down into your hand on your navel, because it's tactile. And then you'll breathe down into your stomach because you can feel it there. So you'll breathe down into it. If you put it on your chest, you'll breathe into your chest.
Yeah.
We want to breathe down into our stomach because it is actually triggering that vagus nerve, which is communicating with our autonomic nervous system and calming us.
Got it.
How many times have you been involved in an argument with somebody, anybody? You've been involved in an argument and then you say something and walk away and think, what the hell did I say that for? Right? Stress makes you stupid, right?
Yep.
And the reason why stress makes you stupid is because when you are stressed, it takes your prefrontal cortex offline and you don't think. That rational thinking part of your brain, you don't think. So when you are, I'm sure in your time at SWAT, as you are approaching addresses, you are taught to box breathe, to control your breathing so you are focusing, right?
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
keeps your prefrontal cortex online so you can think rationally, you can think quickly. Because once that goes offline, you are on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the more that we like talk about this and practice it, the better that we would be on high stress calls and make
Automatic.
more and make more sound and tactical decisions, right? Because and I always say this, even with the most simple thing, right? Like reloading your pistol
Yep.
and like how easy it could be, or you don't need to practice it, you get it down, but you need to be able to perform simple tasks under high amounts of stress. So a
Yes.
simple task may be just reloading your pistol.
Yeah, because that can become really difficult.
Correct.
It can become really difficult. And it doesn't, when you're reloading, let's just say someone who's listening to this tomorrow is involved in a shit fight. The first thing that you should be doing is breathing out to calm yourself down. Not breathing in and trying to get oxygen in, is breathing out, right? Just breathing out slowly, because that will calm you down. It informs your nervous system. We are safe here. Now, don't get me wrong. We still need some of that fight or flight. But when we are in fight or flight, that rational part of your brain goes offline. And that's where you can't find the stock to put the magazine in. Do you know what I mean? Like you want to reload when that rational part of your brain goes offline. So what we need to do is, when you're in that shit fight, you need to be thinking, breathe, breathe, breathe. And the more you do it away from that incident, that muscle memory, the more you will do it while you're actually in the incident. Yeah. You transfer. As I said, it's like weightlifting. You know, you go in, you start with small weight. And the same with meditation. I know people say, I can't meditate, my brain's too busy. They're the people that need to meditate. Breathwork is the same, but I think breathwork's more long-term because it's right there, right with you, and you can control that breath very quickly. Driving chasing a car, when you're driving your car or you're going to a hot job, just check in with yourself. How am I breathing? Just say, how am I breathing? Because if you're breathing rapidly, you are not thinking straight. You can't think straight. So you need to, how am I breathing? Right, slow it down. Slow it down. Slow down this breathing. Slow it down. And all of a sudden, things start slowing down for you and you start seeing things a lot clearer.
Yeah. No, I've definitely experienced that with responding to a high priority call for service, or being in a vehicle pursuit where there are times when it's like, okay, I'm able to take a few deep breaths and I'm able to kind of process, right? And not only does that help you make better decisions, but when you go to talk on the radio, your voice isn't, oh my God, we're blah, 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 blah. You're calm and you can actually articulate what is occurring. That's letting the other officers know and feel a little bit more comfortable. Like, hey, like we're good. You know, like we're not freaking out. We're good. It lets the supervisors know that are monitoring the pursuit. Hey, like there's nothing crazy going on. Like their voice is pretty calm. They're giving out all the good information. And then, like, for example, like if the vehicle stops abruptly, they get out with a firearm and start shooting, you're
Ready.
you're in a lower stress environment. You're not shaking as much. So if you did have to engage and use deadly force, you're not shaking and missing. You can be accurate. So I think
Exactly.
it does has a lot of
Yeah.
benefit.
I think I loved your analogy then that you used with the radio, because if you think about it, you are informing everyone around you what's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your breath is informing your body the same way. If you can't control your breathing, then your body can't understand what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I get it 100%. And I think it just, there needs to be more awareness on it. There's no training going on at departments with
No.
breath, with
No,
breath.
there isn't. No, there isn't. And breath is, as I said, it's so easy. We all breathe through our mouth. Our mouth is for eating and communicating. Our nose is simply the functions that the nose performs by breathing is
Mhm.
so much better for us to be breathing through it. That's what it's there for, but we don't. And if you're ever working with a colleague and you're driving around and you're going to a hot job, have a look at them and see how they're breathing. I'll guarantee they're breathing through their mouth, and that is stress, right?
Yeah.
That's sympathetic. Just say to them, close your mouth, breathe through your nose, breathe through your nose. Because you can't. When you breathe through your nose, you breathe deeper into your autonomic nervous system, and that's what we want to be doing. Anyway, we've probably banged on enough about breath, but I rate breath work as probably one of the most valuable tools that I have in my toolbox today, as in
Yeah.
being able
And
to control that breath
and you can do it anytime. It's free. It's easy.
anywhere.
Take a minute to do it. I I will try to be better about doing that. I'll think of you after going to a
Just check in
job.
with yourself. It's the old story with everything too, Greg. It's bringing awareness. It's just checking in with yourself with everything. Do you ever drive around in your patrol car as you're driving around? What do you call it? We talked about this during the week, don't we? In the shop or whatever it is. You've
Yeah,
got
yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
in the
yeah. In
shop.
the
It's
shop, in the
California.
unit.
Are you in the shop? Makes me laugh. Okay, I watch The Rookie. I can't stand certain characters in it, but I do watch The Rookie.
Mhm.
But when you're driving around, do you ever ask yourself, how am I traveling? How do I feel? Do you ever do that? I bet you don't. I bet you never say, how do I feel? I feel good. I feel good. Or, oh, I feel a bit anxious. Breathe slowly. Oh, I feel better. But you don't do it. When you're going to go and have something to eat, do you look at the clock and go, oh, it's dinner time. Oh, okay. I've got to go through whatever. I've got to get some food. Or do you say to yourself, am I hungry? Not really. Did this hunger come on suddenly, or did I spot the Donut King over there and I'm going to go to Donut King?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Check in. A lot of the time, as an emotional response, if we ask ourselves the question, we actually then have a rational answer for it. Like when you're driving around, like next shift that you're doing and you're driving and you're thinking about this podcast, I want you to check in with yourself. How am I breathing? How am I feeling? Good.
Mhm.
Feel good. I'm breathing well. Good. That's all you got to do. And keep doing that through the shift. How am I breathing? If you get to a hot job and you're on the radio and then you put the mic down, here's one for you. Next time you answer and you respond to a call and you think, and you throw it, next question is, how am I breathing? Because as you go, yeah, you know what?
Yeah.
It goes away.
Yeah.
Because you've told your body that it's stress, so it's going to give you that stress response. So if you just say, how am I breathing, and just check your breath and slow it down, you'll find that you'll go, you know what, it is what it is, so be it. And you'll think, my God, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Who stole Greg? Where did Greg go?
Seriously, yeah. He's a changed man.
He's a changed man just by the breath. That's fantastic.
Seriously. I like it. Yeah, I think that was a very good breakdown of breath. That was the most I've talked about breath work.
Yeah. Oh, I
On
love breath work. I love
I
it.
can tell you do. I can
Yeah.
tell.
Yeah. As I said, I traveled interstate to go and learn with the people that I went and learnt with, and it was the best thing I ever did.
Awesome.
It's so enlightening. And anyone that's done breakthrough breath work, anyone listening to this that's ever done breakthrough breath work, which I highly recommend first responders do as a regular basis, because it opens and closes all of the loops of stress that's been trapped in the system. Breakthrough breath work is phenomenal. Have you ever done breakthrough breath work? Yeah. Have a look around your area and see if there's anywhere that does breakthrough breath work, and go and take your wife and go and do a session of it. It's really really valuable. It will open and get rid of stress out of your body that you didn't even know you were carrying. I'll just
Okay.
leave it at that one. That was really good.
All right. Perfect. Perfect. Roger, I think we're kind of at that point to start closing it up a
Oh,
little
great.
bit.
Yeah, sure.
So really quick before we end this, obviously you know which question I'm going to end you or ask to end it off, but give the audience, the listeners, if people are still listening to this, where can they find you? Where can they listen to the podcast, the website, all that? Just go through that one more time for me.
Well, if I haven't bored people or driven people absolutely crazy over this journey, I love a chat, but it's important. But if people go to ahealthyshift.com, all one word, ahealthyshift.com, on there is links to everything that I do. I run my own podcast. I'm about to publish episode 300 of the podcast as well myself. Thank you. And as you know, it's a lot of work to put the podcast together. But what I do with my podcast is I just do, and I know people will find this hard to believe, but I just do like 15-minute short espresso episodes of tips to help people with shift work strategies and things that you won't have thought of. So I run the podcast, which is one of my favorite platforms. I'm on Instagram at _healthy_shift. And I'm also on LinkedIn as Roger Sutherland, and people can find me there as well. I'm more active on LinkedIn at the moment because I'm chasing down the corporate. I want to get into corporate support. I want to get in and help shift working organizations and take the training off them, and I'll do it to train them how to train people and put shift work champions into their organizations so that they've got people on shift doing all of that. So that's something that I do as well. Yeah, but other than that, Instagram, the podcast are the two main areas that I'm generally on.
Awesome. Thanks for breaking that down. And obviously I'll have all that in the podcast description. And then as I start getting clips of all this and everything, tag you in the app and all that stuff. We have all the goodies,
That shirt looks good on you, by the way.
You like it?
I do like it.
It's
I do like it.
Soft.
Just so you know, Greg, because we haven't spoken about it on the podcast, but Greg and I have swapped shirts, the Overwatch Collective and Healthy Shift shirts, and when we turned up for the podcast today, we're wearing each other's shirts.
So it's funny. Literally, like 10 minutes before we started recording, I told my wife, I was like, I'm wearing his polo. And I was like, you watch, he's going to be having our t-shirt on or the polo. And then when we come on screen, it's this. And I'm like, I love it. Absolutely love it.
I know. It's great. You must see me every time on my Instagram stories wearing an Overwatch t-shirt because I do. I've got the green one, the pale color one, the burgundy one. I wear them all the time. I live in them. I love it because I love the message. And I know you're going to ask me about it. Yeah. But I do, and it does create conversations, believe it or not. People say to me, what does that mean? And my first response is, what does it mean to you?
Ah, I like that.
That's always my first response. When they say, because, they look at it, the Overwatch Collective, and a lot of people wouldn't know what an Overwatch is. And I must admit, I didn't know what an Overwatch was until I watched the TV series SEAL Team, I think.
SEAL Team? Yeah.
Fantastic TV show. Fantastic.
Yes.
I loved it. But they would always put someone in Overwatch, and that was when it all clicked. And I went, oh my God, now I know what the Overwatch is, right? So now when anyone sees me and they say to me, I've been meaning to ask you, what does one more is one less mean? I always say to them, what does it mean to you? And it's interesting the response that people come back with.
Awesome.
It's generally,
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize what it is, so they don't know what it relates to, but I don't tell them what it relates to. I just say to them, what does it mean to you? I let them put their own spin on it. Some of them will far out. Some of them are really out there, but
I'm sure, and they don't have the context behind it, right? And that's the cool thing too, is we get a lot of even like when I wear it, or just like the helicopter logo or whatever. I'll have people be like, "Hey, I used to fly those," or "I've been in those," or "What kind of helicopter is that?" And then, "Oh, what's the Overwatch Collective?" And then you get to share it. So obviously, it's one of those things that's a good like marketing tool, and when people see it,
absolutely, it is.
Like I wear them to the gym all the time, so everybody in the gym is like,
I do too. Yep.
Yeah. So I think
I wear
it's
them in the Aussie Frontline shirts because I think they're so important for people to understand what they are. Because the Aussie Frontline T-shirt, the logo that they've built on the back of their shirt or their logo is actually a piece of every police department and military organisation in their logo. So you can recognise a lot of people that have served can look and go, that I can see that's got the Australian Army in it, or it's got Victoria Police in it, or it's got South Australia Police, or you know what I mean? Like it's got a piece of every logo in it. I will tell you this: a lady asked me in the gym only on Monday, "What does one more is one less mean?" And I said, "Oh, one more is one less. What does it mean to you?" And she said, "Well, it means one more Tim Tam eaten is one more Tim Tam gone." Now, a Tim
yeah,
Tam, it's like a Twinkie biscuit, like it's a biscuit, yeah. If
I
you
know.
thinks that you've got a Tim Tam, but she said, "Yeah, one more Tim Tam eaten is one more gone." So okay, one less. So
There
that's
you
what
go.
it meant.
Yeah. Okay. So you already know it's coming, but what does one more is one less mean to you?
Yeah, one more is one less is very important to me. It's a great logo. I wear it with absolute pride, and I love to speak about it, Greg. To me personally, one more is one less is one more person that is helped is one less person that is out there struggling. And I apply this into my own business as well. So I think if we can slightly help one person with one little tip somewhere along the line, it's one less person that's struggling with a problem out there. And I think that's probably the strength of the logo or the quote.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Ah, this was a blast.
It is. It always is.
It really is. I
Always.
know we said this even before we started talking. Every time that we get a chance to connect and talk and everything, it's always
Yep.
very special, and appreciate the relationship that we have in different countries, sharing each other's posts on social media, getting the
Yeah.
message out there with
Yep.
the ultimate goal, and that's the Overwatch collective, the collective effort to
Yes.
work together to provide resources to our community to ultimately strive or thrive and succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we can turn it around. We've got young people who are coming in. We talked about the values, and yes, I'm a bitter and twisted ex, right? I get that. But we've got new people that are in now that are absolute. Like my daughter, she loves it. And my son in law absolutely love it, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I live vicariously. I don't question, oh, why do you love it? Like, seriously? Because the job's changed. My
Mhm.
values no longer align with it, but theirs do, and they love it. So we have to support those people. And we've got people out there, as you do in the US, that take photos of the cars and they put it on their social media and they're sharing military social media and things like that too. It's absolutely fantastic. And it's a brotherhood. I chipped them. Sorry, if I can just say, I chipped them for. They drink, that Monster Energy drink. They all
Yeah.
drink the Monster Energy, and I chipped one of them and said, don't share that. It's absolute garbage. Like it's just caffeine on night shift, and don't do that because it's impacting on you. And I had it pointed out to me, not nastily, I had it pointed out to me that it's actually what they bond over, Monster Energy, the white, Monster White, they bond around it. And I went, what do you mean by that? And they said, oh, we all share it. We try and get it into wherever we can possibly get it into a photo. And I went, okay, if that's what you bond over, do you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
not that they fully support and endorse it. It's just a common product that they bond over. They Photoshop it into images and all sorts of stuff, and they just have some fun with it. And then they get in contact. Is Monster better than, is White Monster better than Red Monster? Is it better than, is it better than V, or is it better than Red Bull, or what do we do? You know what I mean? Like it's just a game. And
Yeah.
good on them, because if they're bonding over that, then they're bonding, and that's important.
Yeah. As long as they're bonding over something, it's
Exactly. Yeah, and
it's
it's
a
healthy. And when I say it's healthy, it's a healthy. It's not
the
healthy, but it's a
bonding
healthy
is
product.
healthy, not the drink.
The bonding is healthy, yeah, not the drinking itself.
Yeah.
Thanks, Greg. I really appreciate you.
Of course, I appreciate you coming on, everybody. Thank you for listening to this episode, season 9, episode 11 with Roger. The episode that I was on Roger's podcast is episode 125 of his.
Thank you.
So
You
if
saved
you,
me.
I looked it up before we started recording. So if you want to go on and listen to Roger's interview with me, that was
Yep.
early last year, episode
Yep.
125. Go on there, listen to it, let us know what you think. And obviously, if you want to get connected to Roger, all of his information is in the podcast description below. And then if you cannot figure that out, let me know and I will get you all connected happily.
We will happily help.
Sweet. All right, Roger. Well, I know it's 10,
11 a.m. 11
11
a.m. my
a.m.
time.
your time. So I'm going to go have a good evening. And I
do
hope
that.
you have a good rest of your morning and day.
You got a night off? Enjoy it.
I do. Yes, sir. We're going to play. The wife and I are going to make a drink and then play some games and have some fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Sweet. All righty. Thank you, Roger. I appreciate you again.
Thank you.